that I heard you say about the impacts of doing your enrollment this way is that, one, you're able to be more efficient in your scheduling, which allows more time with advisors to get to build relationship and get to know the students and actually understand what's going on with them as a human. What are some of the challenges that they might be facing that might make college more difficult? So I'm curious, since shifting to this way of doing enrollment, this way of doing scheduling, where you're having scheduler do sort of the heavy lifting of figuring out the schedule for the student and the human doing the more empathetic work of connecting with the student, what kinds of results have you seen for your students? How has it changed the experience for your students?
So I'm going to focus on two important success measures: retention and graduation. It's going to be hard to measure I think, retention the last couple of years just because of they were abnormal. But what we saw was that for those students that started as a freshman, building their schedules using scheduler, and those that were advised with this model of shifting the whole transactional clerical work of advising and just focusing more on the student, we always had a very good retention rate, but it just put it to another level. We were always above 70s, which is for the student population that we have, and for being a regional school, removing the flagship, the A&M College Station, removing them from the list of system schools. We were number one for more than 10 years in a row. So this actually put us from the low 70s to the high 70s. So the last class, the retention for the class of fall 2019 for fall 2020 was 78%. And before that, we were averaging about 74%. You might say, well, it's only 4 points. Well, if you put it in numbers, that represents more than 150 students. So it went down a little bit on the pandemic, but it didn't go down to the low 70s. It remained at the middle 70s. And again, might be 1 or 2 points difference, but whenever you're actually talking on raw numbers, it's a huge difference. The other key factor the other key statistics that I'm going to give you is graduation. The class, and the graduation, you need to wait 4 years. Okay, so the first class, the class that came in using scheduler, that were advised by advisors using scheduler, and as students use scheduler, that class was the fall of the fall class of 2017, I believe. That class graduated at a 5 percentage point higher than the previous class. So we were, as an institution, we made some improvements. We were graduating at the low 20s. And then we did some changes in some of the structures that we did, some of the processes, and some of the things that we were handling. We did mid-20s, and it remained at mid-20s. But that 5% jump from one class to the other was just outstanding for me. I saw that and was like, oh my goodness, what happened there? So we went back, and let's put this out there. I mean, a scheduler maybe was not the main thing, but it was a very important thing on some of the operation changes that we did. So that class that they don't know better, they came here and scheduler was already a thing, and we were already using it, and they started using it since they were freshmen. That class graduated at the largest percentage points in school history. They graduated at 30% graduation rate, 4-year graduation rate. The previous class graduated at 25. So if you look at strategic plans of universities, they say that in 10 years, they're going to increase the graduation rate by 5 points. We did it in 1. Okay? Yes, maybe the number was low, but having a 5% increase from one class to the other was just remarkable. It was just amazing to see. The next year went down 1 point. It went down to 29. but we already talking that we are the high 20s, low 30s, rather than the low 20s, mid 20s. So it's huge. It's huge. Again, there are strategic plans developed to improve some of these success measures, and we were able to do it in just 1 year. So those are two very simple of interesting facts that I can tangible data points uh, that I can show that talks about some of the changes that we have done internally at this institution.
What do you think makes the difference? What do you think it is about the shifts that is yielding that like remarkable result? You said it's only 4 points, but I know being a person who managed an office we're very interested in retaining our students, it was very hard to move 1 point. Like we moved one percentage point. We were really excited. And when you think about it in raw students, it's remarkable because those points are actual individual students who are retaining, are staying in school. What do you think is making it easier for students to stay enrolled and persist on towards graduation?
Well, number one is the fact that you have a tool that can help you identify the best schedule possible. Sometimes if you're in a rush and you're just there trying to build something, you build whatever you find first and just go with it. With a tool like Scheduler, you're actually able to put more into it, and perhaps students might add a class that maybe they didn't see fit, or maybe they didn't know it was available, or they are able. The system is able to provide them with all of the options that are out there. And before they didn't have that. It was again more transactional. It was just one by one, looking at what's open and looking if it was you were able to fix it, and then doing the highlight on the hour grid that all of us remember when we were in college. So students are able to identify all of the schedules that they can possibly have and all the different options, and in a faster way, in a more efficient way. And again, adding an extra class by semester might reduce the amount of students that are graduating in 5 years to 4.5, or those graduating 4.5 to 4, or those graduating 4 to 3.5. So that's number one. And the second one, it will be, like I mentioned before, going back to the actual advising sessions. Focusing more on the students, making those advising sessions more meaningful to the students, and planning. You need to talk about what happens. So you have a student that started with a 3.2 GPA by semester, and then is going down 2.9, 2.7, 2.5. So obviously something's happening. So what is going on? At one moment, can you intervene and have time to talk about a possible change of major, perhaps, maybe a possible identification of change of a career at an early stage? And if you identify these things prior to being so late, prior to, you're changing your major when you're a junior rather than changing your major in your first semester as a sophomore, it makes a huge difference, because then you're going to be taking so many classes. And if you're going to switch to something that has nothing to do with what you were pursuing, then obviously you have to start from zero sometimes. Well, not from zero, but you know what I mean. You have to take more classes, and it's going to take you longer to graduate. Perhaps you run out of financial aid, or perhaps you no longer have a scholarship and things like that. And all these things just delayed, the graduation, the graduation, the success of graduating student, for the students to graduate on time. So those are the two factors, I think. Putting more options to the students, and focusing more and making more meaningful advising sessions, and that's why I think we're seeing the high success rates that our numbers are showing.